Jason Rondo had always enjoyed the quiet solitude of his small pharmacy. It was a humble place, tucked into a corner of a busy street where life bustled around him. Yet, on this day, that familiar hum of activity was missing. The streets were eerily still, and not a single customer had walked through his door. Jason tried to dismiss it as an odd coincidence, perhaps some local event he hadn't heard about. Still, as the hours dragged on, unease gnawed at him. He stepped outside, the jingling of the bell above the door cutting sharply through the silence. The sight that greeted him was unsettling. The street was completely deserted. There were no pedestrians, no cars, not even the distant hum of city life. A chill ran down his spine. Jason fumbled for his phone and began dialing, first his family, then his friends. One by one, the calls failed to connect. There was no tone, no voicemail, just silence. A growing sense of dread crept over him. Something was very, very wrong. He was about to lock up the pharmacy and leave when the doorbell chimed behind him. Startled, he spun around to see someone stepping inside, but it wasn't a regular customer. Standing before him was a woman, or at least, she appeared vaguely human. Her shimmering skin glowed faintly, her silver hair flowed like liquid metal, and her eyes, glowing with an intense blue light, locked onto his. She was unmistakably alien. "I need a medicine to strengthen my resilience," she said, her voice calm but tinged with urgency. Jason blinked, momentarily frozen. Questions swirled in his mind, but his instincts as a pharmacist kicked in. He turned to the shelves, his hands trembling slightly, and grabbed the first bottle he could find. The alien woman took the pills without hesitation. "Water," she demanded, holding out her hand. Jason fumbled to hand her a glass. She swallowed the pill and, for a moment, stood still. Then her body began to tremble, and her expression twisted in confusion and alarm. Energy coursed through her, her movements growing erratic. She darted across the room, her speed blurring her form. "What did you give me?" she shouted, her voice echoing with an otherworldly resonance. Jason grabbed the bottle from the counter and read the label. His heart sank. He had made a mistake, a catastrophic one. The medication wasn't a standard immune booster. It was an experimental stimulant, something that could have dangerous side effects, even for humans. I'm sorry, it was a mistake," Jason stammered, trying to calm her, but the woman seemed beyond reasoning. Her body surged with energy, and she began tearing through the pharmacy, knocking over shelves and scattering products everywhere. Jason's mind raced. He had to fix this, but as he watched her chaotic movements, another thought struck him. Why wasn't I more surprised to see an alien? Why did I treat this like it was just another day? He approached her cautiously, keeping his voice steady. "Who are you? What's happening here?" The woman stopped abruptly, turning to face him with glowing eyes. "I could ask you the same thing. What are you doing in our universe?" Jason blinked in confusion. "Your universe? What do you mean? This is Earth." She tilted her head, her expression shifting to something almost sympathetic. "No, it isn't. You're far from your home. Somehow, you've been brought here into our world." Her words hit him like a freight train. He staggered back, his mind reeling. This wasn't Earth. The deserted streets, the silence, the lack of human presence, it all began to make sense. As he tried to process her explanation, the woman's demeanor shifted again. Her energy, fueled by the stimulant, became uncontrollable. She lunged at him, her strength startling. With alarming speed, she pulled off his pharmacist coat, pressing herself against him. "What have you done to me?" she breathed, her voice quivering with both anger and exhilaration. "I can't stop. I feel unstoppable." Jason tried to push her away gently. "Calm down. Someone might come in any second," but she didn't care. "Nia," she said suddenly, her glowing eyes meeting his. "My name is Nia." Jason barely had time to respond before the door to the pharmacy burst open with a deafening crash. 3 figures entered, their presence commanding the room. They were tall, imposing, and clad in armor that gleamed with an iridescent light. Their faces were stern, their movements deliberate. The leader stepped forward, his piercing gaze fixed on Jason. "You've committed a grave violation," he said, his voice resonating like thunder. "You've administered an unauthorized substance to one of our kind." Jason raised his hands defensively. "It was a mistake. I didn't know." "Silence," the leader barked. He turned to Nia, who was still pacing, her energy barely contained. The other two aliens moved to restrain her, but even they struggled to keep up with her frenetic movements. The leader turned back to Jason, his expression unyielding. "You've disrupted the balance of this sector. You will come with us. There is no debate." Jason barely had time to react before the leader activated a device on his wrist. A brilliant light enveloped the room, and Jason felt himself being pulled into an overwhelming vortex of energy. When the light faded, he found himself in a vast alien city. The towering spires stretched toward a vibrant sky filled with swirling, prismatic colors that seemed alive, shifting and dancing as though responding to unseen forces. Jason's eyes were wide as he took in the sights. The transparent domes that enclosed parts of the city glimmered like liquid crystal, while sleek, gravity-defying vehicles zipped through the air in organized chaos. The city seemed alive not just with its inhabitants, but with the hum of technology so advanced it felt like magic. Jason staggered forward, his legs trembling under the weight of the surreal experience. He glanced around, trying to make sense of the alien beings bustling past him. They were humanoid in shape, but their forms varied wildly. Some were tall and ethereal, their skin glowing faintly, while others were squat and mechanical, their movements precise and deliberate. No one paid him much attention, as if a disoriented human was just another strange addition to their already bizarre world. His breath quickened, and he reached out to steady himself on a nearby wall. The material was cool and smooth, yet it pulsed faintly under his touch, as though the building itself were alive. Jason recoiled instinctively. "Get it together," he muttered to himself, but his voice sounded small against the immense scope of the city. He needed answers, and quickly. Before he could take another step, a voice spoke behind him, startling him. "You look lost, Earthling." Jason spun around to see an alien standing a few feet away. The figure was tall and clad in sleek, metallic armor similar to the leader who had brought him here, but there was something softer in their demeanor. Their face was framed by silvery patterns that seemed to shift like flowing ink, and their eyes glowed a gentle amber. "Who are you?" Jason asked, his voice shaky. The alien tilted their head slightly, studying him. "My name is Liar. I'm an observer, let's say." "You're far from home, aren't you?" Jason nodded, his throat dry. "I don't even know how I got here. One minute I was in my pharmacy, and now he gestured helplessly at the sprawling city around him. "I don't belong here." Liar's expression softened. "That's true, but you're here now, and the sooner you accept that, the better. They don't tolerate mistakes here, especially from outsiders." Jason felt a chill. "Who are they?" "The ones who brought me here." "The enforcers," Liar said, glancing around as if wary of being overheard. "They govern this sector of the galaxy. They don't take kindly to disruptions, and what you did with Nia. Well, let's just say it's a good thing you're still breathing." Jason clenched his fists. "It was an accident. I didn't mean to." "Intent doesn't matter to them," Liar interrupted. "What matters is the chaos it caused. That stimulant you gave her, do you even understand what it did?" Jason shook his head. "It was just a mix-up. I didn't have time to check the label properly." Liar sighed, their glowing eyes narrowing slightly. "That mix-up amplified her energy beyond her species' natural limits. You essentially supercharged her. If they hadn't intervened, she could have destabilized half the city or worse." Jason felt his knees weaken. "I didn't know. I just I panicked." Liar nodded sympathetically. "You're not the first outsider to end up here, and you won't be the last. But if you want to survive, you'll need to learn quickly. The enforcers don't give second chances." Jason swallowed hard. "So what happens now? Am I stuck here forever?" Liar hesitated before answering. "That depends. They might keep you here as punishment, or they might decide you're useful." Either way, your old life is gone. You need to find a way to adapt. Jason's mind reeled. Adapt? How could he adapt to a world where nothing made sense? His thoughts were interrupted by a loud, mechanical hum that filled the air. Liar tensed and stepped back. "They're coming," Liar said urgently. "Stay calm and don't resist. Trust me, it'll only make things worse." Before Jason could ask what they meant, a group of enforcers appeared, their metallic forms gleaming as they marched toward him. The leader from earlier stepped forward, his expression as stern as ever. "Jason Rondo," the leader announced, his voice carrying a weight that made Jason's chest tighten. "You will report to the Central Tribunal immediately." Jason opened his mouth to protest, but Liar shot him a warning glance. He closed it again, nodding reluctantly. The enforcers surrounded him, their movements precise and synchronized. As they began to escort him through the city, Jason caught one last look at Liar, who gave him a faint, almost encouraging smile before disappearing into the crowd. The journey to the Central Tribunal was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. They passed through vast corridors of light and shadow, where alien technologies hummed softly in the background. Jason tried to take it all in, but the weight of what awaited him pressed heavily on his mind. Finally, they reached a towering structure that seemed to defy physics, its spiraling form stretching endlessly into the sky. The doors opened with a soft hiss, revealing an enormous chamber filled with beings of all shapes and sizes. At the center of the room stood a massive, glowing platform. Jason was pushed forward, his heart pounding. The leader stepped onto the platform beside him and raised his voice. "This Earthling has violated our laws and endangered our sector. His fate now lies with the tribunal." Jason's eyes darted around, searching for any sign of mercy or understanding in the faces of those watching. But all he saw were cold, unfeeling stares. As the leader stepped back, a deep, resonant voice filled the chamber, echoing from the very walls. "Jason Rondo, you stand accused of negligence and disruption. How do you plead?" Jason took a shaky breath, his mind racing. This wasn't just a trial, it was a test of his ability to survive in this alien world. And if he failed, he might never see Earth again.